On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1976. We're going to be taking a look at Willie Nelson, and he's going to be performing Red-Headed Stranger. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So let's get Willie and the band up on screen and see how they get on.
A Red-Headed stranger from Blue Rock, Montana, rode into town one day. And under his knees was a raging black stallion, and walking behind was a bay. And the red-headed stranger had eyes like the thunder, and lips that were sad and tired. And his little lost love lay asleep on the hillside, and his heart was heavy as night. So don't cross him, don't boss him, he's wild in his sorrow, and he's right, and he's hiding his pain. Don't fight him, don't spite him, just wait till tomorrow. Maybe he'll ride on again. And a yellow-haired lady leaned out of her window and watched as he passed her way. She drew back in fear at the sight of the stallion, but cast greedy eyes on the bay. How could she know that the dancing bay pony meant more to him than life? For this was the horse that his little lost darling had ridden when she was his wife. So don't cross him, don't boss him, he's wild in his sorrow, and he's riding, and he's hiding his pain. Don't fight him, don't spite him, just wait till tomorrow. Maybe he'll ride on again. And the yellow-haired lady came down to the tavern and looked up the stranger there. And he bought her a drink, and he gave her some money. He just didn't seem to care. She followed him out as he saddled his stallion, and laughed when she grabbed at the bay. But he shot her so quick they had no time to warn her, and she never heard anyone say, don't cross him, don't boss him, 'cause he's wild in his sorrow, and he's right, and he's hiding his pain. And don't fight him, don't spite him, just wait till tomorrow. Maybe he'll ride on again. The yellow-haired lady was buried at sunset. The stranger went free, of course. For you can't hang a man for killing a woman that's trying to steal your horse. Now this is a tale of the red-headed stranger, and if he should pass your way, stay out of the path of the raging black stallion, and don't lay a hand on the bay. And don't cross him, don't boss him, 'cause he's wild in his sorrow, and he's right, and he's hiding his pain. Don't fight him, don't spite him, just wait till tomorrow. Maybe he'll ride on again.
And there we have it. I thought that I'd let it go all the way through because it is interrupting the story if I had jumped in before the end, and it's only just over 3.5 minutes in length. But this whole performance, what I love about this song, but not only the song, the album that it came from, is how minimalistic the performance is and the instrumentation, but it's more about what the band aren't playing than what they are playing, because of the way that during the verses, everything drops out. We've just got the bass in there. He does intentionally lean in with the intro because there's a lot of applause going on. He wants to get into this story. So he starts all out to let everybody know that we're starting here, and everyone dies down. And you can see how The whole audience here are so into it and listening, intent on hearing every word of this story, and it is in Willie's delivery vocally because he has that storytelling quality. And it is like looking at somebody tell a story, but obviously he's hitting the pitches, he's got such great stylization in his vocal as well. I was asked to look at this video from a guitar perspective, of course, looking at Willie's playing. I do quickly want to throw in the background behind this song and the album of the same name, because Willie Nelson was massively successful with Atlantic Records, and then he signed another record deal with Columbia Records. And in that contract, it stated that Willie would have full artistic control of everything recording-wise and what would be released. So when it came down to recording this particular album, Willie went away and recorded it in this minimalist way, and it was a concept album, so it meant that it had a theme running through it. It was one long story, so it all had to be consistent. So when Willie came back to the record label and saw the guys in the suits in the offices, he played this album and they said to him, "Why have you bought us a demo? What have you been doing with the time?" And he said, "Well, this is the album." And they said, "Well, no, it isn't. We're not going to release this. We have to go back. There's no production on it. We have to make it more produced." And you can imagine that in the mid-70s, the production in the studios was really being ramped up and everything was just over-processed. And this is such a great statement from Willie Nelson to take everything back to just a guitar, his voice, and an occasional harmonica, a little bit of piano in here as well. But there's almost nothing going on in the verses where the story is being told and where Willie wants to draw you into that storytelling, especially in the third verse here. Have a listen to how it's all brought down because it's a serious point of the song, and Willie Nelson, it was so good and is so good at bringing you into the story. So it's not just listening to a song anymore. Anyway, the fact was that they did release the album much to their disagreement and disappointment from the label, and it turned into a multi-platinum selling album because the most important thing that the record label don't understand is that when Willie Nelson recorded this, it was his personality, it was his artistic expression, and that's what people buy the music for. That's what they want to listen to. It is something as well that shows you the level of artistry that Willie Nelson has, but also his artistic integrity, putting together an album. And it would be so easy to listen to the record label who said, "We don't like it, you need to do this, you need to do that, we need to go back to the studio." But Willie Nelson said, "No, this is my album, like it or lump it, and we're going to release it like this." So it's something that just gives you massive respect for Willie as an artist, because this was the approach of guys back in the day, especially outlaw country. Those guys, as the name suggests, they just stuck to their guns. And certainly that is the way that Willie Nelson writes and records. So getting into the fretwork that's going on here from Willie and the guys in the background, obviously in the verses, it's difficult to make out because it's so quiet. We've got such a dynamic range throughout this performance. But when I first started listening to this and watched the video, I got my thumb pick on, started to get ready for some fingerstyle, but Willie's playing this with a pick, and it looks like he's using all downstrokes as well. He might be doing a little bit of hybrid picking. It is difficult to spot, but it seems to be just with our D chord where we start. Just that, picking out the root note of the chord, and then doing two strums on the higher part of the chord and bouncing between them so that you get that bass line effect of it running all the time. And then we move down to the A string, like that, and repeat the same thing over and over again. So we've got that theme running throughout, the bounce from one string to the next with the pick, and then just hitting the rest of the chord. That's how Willie and the rest of the guys are approaching it throughout this performance. So it's also on the record, of course, because this is the great thing, that because it was so stripped back in the studio and the album sounded exactly like a live performance, so that's exactly what you get when you hear Willie Nelson play live. Anyway, getting into this, obviously starting in the intro, we're really open dynamically. So we're starting And let me just explain quickly something I'm doing there with my thumb to keep the A string quiet when I go back to the D string. So I'll do it in slow motion. I'm going, and then my thumb comes over and is muting that A from ringing out for any longer. What we want to try and avoid is the A string and the D string ringing out at the same level, because it'll start to sound a little bit messy. So if I was doing that, it starts to sound like I'm just going and just hitting a chord over and over again, whereas by really emphasizing the D string and then the A and then muting the A, now you only hear the D string again by itself, so it makes it a lot cleaner sounding. Just like that. So then when we transition down to an A chord, we have this little run that happens. Like that, which is just going from the D, D, and then my third finger's come over here to play the C sharp on the A string, and then I'm going down to a B with that first finger, open to the A string. So we've got this D, C sharp, B, A, like that. And we go back to that same cycle, A, and then 2 on the chord, and I think we then ascend the same way that we descended. So when we're going, like that. So once we've worked our way back up, it sounds like we almost have a D7th in there, into a G, D, E. It's so tempting to start throwing in runs all over the place, but that E will run back up into an A and then up into the D. I don't think we do run up from the E, but you can throw that in there if you want to. So we've got, if you want to throw that in there, you can do. I don't think Willie does that run up. He just plays straight. And that was, again, just that same approach of low E string, chord, A string, chord, and then moving over to the A. Run up. Also, just to mention that you're not going to hear all of this on the performance, because in the verses it's just the bass and maybe a very occasional strum on the guitar, very lightly played, so we hardly hear it. So this is a busking version of it if you are wanting to play the song yourself and sing along and you haven't got a full band and you need to fill in the sound as much as possible. Also, when we work our way into the chorus, we've got the and there's that little riff which happens before the chorus so that you know you're going into another part of the song. And getting into that, we go from the A, same run up into the D. And here, I'm just picking the open D string, and then the G, and then the B with an upstroke. So it's, and then you're hitting those same 3 strings open, and then hammering on your first finger and your third finger. The top E, in terms of hearing that hammer on, I don't think it's really in there. We don't really hear that being hammered on, so I would just stick to the first finger and the third finger. So the chorus starts out with the G and that alternating bass line. D, D again, A, And now here, Willie puts in a little bit of picking, and this might be just an upstroke on the B string, then the G, and then the high E string. You probably want to go up, down, up in order to get that nice and clear. Then it's back into the G, D, A, run up, and then we'll be back into the verse as we were before. When I mentioned about hybrid picking at the beginning, there is an opportunity to throw that in here or there, especially from the A as we ascend back up to the D. And if we're playing as we normally would do, here we've been running up just that one string, whereas if you're playing the A and you want to throw in that little bit of hybrid picking, you can do, and all I'm doing there is picking with my pick on the A string, and my third finger on the right hand is just plucking that B string, and then I'm going to second fret of the A string and then third fret of the B string and shifting that shape up. So it means you can get that harmony line with the run up if you want to. Kind of like that. Then you'd be back into that normal picking and strumming action on the right hand. Another thing to throw in there is that Willie does occasionally throw in a double time pick on the root notes. So we've got the D, and so in slow motion, just like that. And it's subtle, he throws it in there. Again, not all the time, he doesn't overdo it. It's just to keep that rhythm motoring along. Of course, from a technical perspective as well, if you don't want to do all downstrokes, you can use alternate picking. Like that, it's up to you, but Willie just does all downstrokes for those double time picks. But having gone through all of the chords and got the groove and the feel down of the song, a really important thing to mention is the dynamics, because you don't want to be playing this just at the same level the whole time. If it is just you and a guitar and you're singing this, you probably want to get a bit of palm muting going on for the verses so that we've got this. So that it's just an underlayer to the vocal and the telling of the story. You don't want to be competing with the backing. And that's exactly why Willie has thrown this together in this way, so that you can focus on the lyrical content. The other thing is that on the original record, you'll find they've got a little bit more strumming going on to get that bouncy groove going. Kind of like that. And in order to approach it, if you're strumming and you're trying to get that same groove, you want to leave a little bit more time than you normally would between the down and the up, so that that up and down, the final down of that sequence, is closer than it would normally be, because that'll give it that little skip. Like that. If you played it straight, it would just sound like this. Now with the skip, so it's got that little bit of swing in there. Another thing to mention is that on the original record, when the riff comes in with the hammered on D chord, it sounds like we've got an F sharp in there, which isn't really clear in this performance, but it might be the case that when it was recorded, we have the picking And then the second fret of this low E string, the F sharp, is being fretted with the rest of the chord when it's hammered on. Like that. But I don't want this video to go on for too long. It probably already has. Always tends to be the case when I'm breaking down guitar parts, but hopefully this analysis and breakdown of this live version of Red-Headed Stranger has made a bit of sense to you if you do play the guitar, and maybe even if you don't play the guitar, you understand the principles of the rhythm and all that kind of stuff. What this performance really does do is bring into focus the importance of dynamics in a performance, especially with the lyrical content we've got here. Willie wants to make sure that you can hear every single word of this story, and that's why everything is brought down so low with the backing when Willie's talking and telling you the story. I say talking, he's obviously singing, but that is what it comes across as because he's such a master at doing it. But thank you guys so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!